Hey everyone, welcome back to Sacred Cards, and today I'm going to share with you my Witchcrafter Deck Profile post Age of Overlord. This deck was first released in the set Infinity Chasers and recently got some great new support in Magnificent Mavens. I absolutely love the artwork and the deck is very fun to play. Be sure to check out the other deck profiles and content on my channel. We've only been here for a short time, but thanks to the support of this great community, we have been growing, so thank you very much. I'm working to improve my lighting, camera quality, and sound, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more content and updates. So, with all that said, I'll go through my deck list and try and explain the cards as best I can. Let's get into the deck profile. Starting off with the high-level witches, I play one copy of Witchcrafter Madame Vere and one copy of Witchcrafter Golem Aruru. Madame Vere is the main boss monster. Quick effect, you can discard a spell to negate the effects of all monsters your opponent controls until the end of the turn. Also, if your spellcaster monster battles, you can reveal any number of spells with different names in your hand to increase its attack and defense by 1,000 for each card revealed until the end of the turn. Golem Aruru has a quick effect when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets your spellcaster monster or targets it for an attack. You can quick effect, target a card in your opponent controls or Witchcrafter spell in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, then return the targeted card to the hand. During your opponent's standby phase, recycle this card back to your hand. For the other big witches, I play one copy of Witchcrafter Hain and one copy of Witchcrafter Adele. When Witchcrafter Hain is on the field, your opponent cannot target other spellcaster monsters you control with card effects. Also, quick effect, you can discard one spell, then face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. Witchcrafter Adele can quick effect, discard a spell, special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your hand. Also, you can tribute this card, then target a spellcaster monster in your graveyard and special summon it back to your field. Now for the Witchcrafter students, I play 3 copies of Witchcrafter Shmieta. All of the lower Witchcrafter monsters share the effect during either player's main phase. Quick effect, you contribute this card, then discard a spell to special summon any Witchcrafter monster from your deck. Shmieta can banish herself from the graveyard, send one Witchcrafter card from your deck to the graveyard. Next, I play 3 copies of Witchcrafter Jenny. Jenny has the effect that you can banish this card and one Witchcrafter spell from your graveyard, and then this effect becomes that spell's effect, allowing you to use that spell card's effect twice per turn if you want. I recently cut down to 2 copies of Witchcrafter Pator. You can banish this card from your graveyard to draw a card, then send one Witchcrafter card to the graveyard. You always want to make sure you have one in your hand prior to activating this effect, but it does help you gain card advantage. Last of the Witchcrafter monsters, I like to play 2 copies of Witchcrafter Pottery. Pottery has the effect that if you have no cards in your hand, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then add a Witchcrafter spell from your graveyard back to your hand. It's always good to see a Witchcrafter name, so I like to play a good amount of the lower level witches. Well, that is it for the Witchcrafters. Now for the spells, starting off with your main searcher, 3 copies of Witchcrafter Creation. This card lets you add any Witchcrafter monster from your deck to your hand. All of the Witchcrafter spells share the effect that if you didn't use the card's first effect, they can return themselves from the graveyard back to your hand during the end phase as long as you control a Witchcrafter monster. Next up, I play 3 copies of Witchcrafter Unveiling. This quick play spell can special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your hand, and if you do, for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot activate cards in response to your spellcaster's monster effects. Now for the new spell from Magnificent Mavens, 3 copies of Witchcrafter Confusion Confession. You can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a Witchcrafter monster. And for recovery, I play 3 copies of Witchcrafter Holiday. I still like playing this card at 3 because you can target a Witchcrafter monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Next for the one-ofs, I play 1 copy of Witchcrafter Collaboration and 1 copy of Witchcrafter Draping. Collaboration can target a Witchcrafter monster you control. That card can make a second attack during the battle phase this turn. Also, if it attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. Witchcrafter Draping is a quick play spell that can target spells and traps your opponent controls up to the number of Witchcrafter monsters you control and return them to the hand. For the last of the Witchcrafter spells, I play 2 copies of Witchcrafter Bystreet and 1 copy of Witchcrafter Scroll. Bystreet provides protection for the first time each Witchcrafter monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect. It is not destroyed. Also, if a Witchcrafter monster would discard a spell to activate an effect, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard instead. Witchcrafter Scroll has the effect once per turn when your spellcaster monster destroys a monster by battle, you can draw a card. And just like Bystreet, if a Witchcrafter monster would discard to activate an effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. Next, I've decided to play 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Absolutely love the artwork on this card. If only you control a spellcaster, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. This can be a great disruption for your opponent. You do have to be mindful because if you do not have a spellcaster monster, then you cannot activate spell cards. In many cases, this card can win you games on its own. And I recently chose to play 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. This card can be really good to let you set up going second and for recovery to help break your opponent's board, especially because they cannot activate cards in response to this card. Now for the last spell card I play, 1 copy of Reasoning. Reasoning just might be my favorite card in the deck. Even back in 2003, I never built a deck without this card. Thankfully, it makes so much sense in this deck as it can potentially gain you a ton of card advantage. Your opponent calls out a monster level and you excavate cards from the top of your deck until you hit a monster. If they called it right, then send all the cards to the graveyard, but if not, you can special summon that monster. All the spells that you sent can return back to your hand at the end phase. Thanks to the new rarity collection, I'm looking forward to getting a much nicer copy of this card. That's it for the spells. Now I play 2 traps in the deck in 1 copy of Witchcrafter Patronus and 1 copy of Witchcrafter Masterpiece. Patronus is a continuous trap that lets you target a spellcaster monster that is banished or in your graveyard, shuffle it back into the deck, then you can add a Witchcrafter spell from your deck to your hand. Also, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish it, target any number of banished Witchcrafter spells with different names, and add them back to your hand. Masterpiece can target a spell in either graveyard and add 1 card from your deck with the same name to your hand. Also, if this card is in the graveyard during either player's turn, you can banish this card and any number of spells, special summon a monster from your deck with an equal level to the number of spells you banished. Well, that is it for the main deck. Now on to the extra deck. You don't always go into the extra deck, so a lot of this can be up to personal preference. One of my favorite cards in the deck, 3 copies of Witchcrafter Vice Madam. You can fuse her with any Witchcrafter and Spellcaster monster. You can activate each of her quick effects once per turn each time a spell card effect or Witchcrafter monster effect is activated. You can either destroy a card on the field, special summon a level 6 or lower Witchcrafter from your hand or deck, or you can add back a Witchcrafter spell or trap from your graveyard back to your hand. Now, I do consider myself a budget player, but I opened up 2 boxes of Age of Overlord, and I was fortunate to open 1 copy of SP Little Knight and 1 copy of Super Star Slayer Sky Crisis. Little Knight has the effect that if it is link summoned using a monster from the extra deck, you can target a card on the field or either graveyard and banish it. Also, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, target 2 face-up cards on the field, including one of yours, and banish them until the end phase. Ty-phon has the effect that during the turn or turn after your opponent's special summon twice from the extra deck, you can XC summon with this card. You can XC summon this card with the monster with the highest attack. While this XC summon monster is on the field, neither player can activate monster effects with 3,000 or more attack. Also, you can detach a material from this card and non-target return a monster from the field to the hand. 2 very, very powerful cards, and I'm very thankful to have pulled these from my Age of Overlord boxes because I likely wouldn't be able to afford them otherwise. For the other Xyz monster, I play 1 copy of Downward Magician. This card gains 200 attack for each material it has, and if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. And if this card battles, detach a material. For the Spellcaster Link monsters, I play 1 copy of Relinquished Anima, 1 copy of Crowley, the First Prophecyr, and 1 copy of Akashic Magician. Relinquished Anima can target a monster it points to and equip it to this card. This card gains attack equal to that monster. Crowley will let you normal summon a level 5 or higher spellcaster monster from your hand without tributing. Akashic Magician, when it is link summoned, can return each monster it points to back to the hand. Its other effect doesn't ever come up because I've never been able to co-link it, but it's another option to have. And rounding off the extra deck, I play 6 Charmers for all the different attributes we play in the main deck. So 1 copy of Dark, 1 Light, 1 Wind, 1 Water, 1 Fire, and 1 Earth. Well, that is it for the deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything you like or don't like, feel free to leave me a comment telling me what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like the video if you did, and subscribe for more content.